said, apparently not if I'm on the other side, so it is what it is, really. Jalen, what do you think about him just coming out and saying that the Clippers didn't really want him back?
I'm going to keep it 1,000. He ruined some of his value by playing poorly in the playoffs. You're going to see a lot of people getting big deals this offseason. The reason why he didn't get a long-term deal is because he was the defensive liability that the Joker continued to take advantage of to the point where they had to take him out of the game. Of course, if the Clippers would have stepped up and signed him to a big deal, or if Charlotte would have gave him a big deal, or if any team in the league would have gave him a big deal, guess what? He would have signed with that team. He signed with the Lakers because they were offering a 2-year deal, an opportunity to win a championship, and he hopes to replay his value as somebody that won Sixth Man of the Year.
With the Lakers adding Trez, and they had Schroeder, and they had Matthews, Gasol, it really feels like they upgraded, they got better. And you remember last year before the season, we were talking about the Lakers and the Clippers being neck and neck, but when you look at what the Clippers did, it doesn't feel like they're keeping pace. Take a look at what they did, Jalen.
Well, it's not just the Clippers, it's the rest of the league, Jacoby. And you got to look at it from a standpoint almost like a real estate transaction. The Los Angeles Lakers are a storied brand and a franchise that over the history of their team, if you look at some of the all-time great players like Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, none of those guys were drafted by the Lakers. They went to Los Angeles because, number one, it's a terrific franchise, but also because they wanted to be in LA. It's just going to be more attractive than other places across the league. So for the Clippers, who plays in their building, eventually will get their own. They also had a really good offseason, Jacoby. They still have Kawhi and PG and Lou Will. Okay? They did a terrific job of adding Ty Lue as their head coach, re-signing Morris. The Clippers are the second best team in the Western Conference. It's just the Lakers are playing chess right now where everybody else is playing checkers, and LeBron James is doing a terrific job of making it unfair for everybody else to compete.
Well, two things. The one thing that the Lakers and the Clippers have in common is they both have players from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Obviously, Paul George with the Clippers, and now Dennis Schroeder with the Lakers. Jalen, when you look at all of the players that the Thunder have acquiesced, coached up, and then lost, what do you think about their strategy this offseason?
You remember when Philly was talking about trust the process? In theory, that's exactly what the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing. It's just nobody's giving it to a label to it. But here's what I want to make sure I point out. All of those draft picks, and Sam Presti is one of the best general managers in the game. The Oklahoma City Thunder are cost-cutting, if you ask me. Because if you look at over the last decade, they're not going to draft players better than Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Victor Oladipo, Paul George, Steven Adams, Dennis Schroeder. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They've been the best farm system that the NBA has seen. It's like, okay, Phoenix, we don't mind helping you out. We'll send you Chris Paul after he helped lead us to the playoffs. Wouldn't most teams be trying to keep SGA and Schrader together? But no, they're going to give up Schrader and trade him to the defending world champion. Didn't Danilo Gallinari just get a big deal with the Atlanta Hawks to help them out? Didn't Steven Adams just go to New Orleans to help them out? So if you're an Oklahoma City fan, you're really excited on paper that you got so many picks, but in theory, they ain't trying to win, dog. They cost cutting. They cost cutting.
They are. They absolutely are. Dennis Schroeder is now on the Lakers, and I used to call him Schrader as well, but I think he changed it. But he did like a Robinson thing on us halfway through his career. Now, Jalen, there's another interesting report from the NBA, and that is not just that John Wall no longer wants to be with the Wizards, but the GM, Tommy Shepard, says we have absolutely no plans on trading Wall. What do you think about the GM coming out and straight up saying he can ask all he wants, but that doesn't mean that we have to trade him?
I think this offseason for John Wall, when you've seen as many videos of him playing ball as in undisclosed locations in Brooklyn, it makes the organization look down at his pay salary structure and say, do we want to build around him basically after he's returning from the injury that he's returning after? And while still a talented player, on paper, you got to look at some of the deals that you're being offered. And Russell Westbrook was one of the names that was thrown out there. And for the Houston Rockets, they wanted more in return than just John Wall. If they were going to give up Russell Westbrook, this is a deal that I wouldn't be surprised, Jacoby, if it got revisited. Because for the Washington Wizards, they've decided they're going to build around Bradley Beal. They just gave Bertans a big deal. And so for that franchise, it's going to be interesting to see if Wall starts the season with them or he ends up elsewhere.
Absolutely. I think that Westbrook to Wall trade, it just makes so much sense. They're always talking about trading James Harden. Let's keep the scoring champion. Let's keep the former MVP scoring champion. And let's build around him, and let's get rid of Westbrook, who's definitely more of a problem than James Harden was when it came to their production, especially in the bubble. Now, Jalen, we also have some news from the Celtics. They have extended Jason Tatum, gave him $195 million. They've made some other moves that you can take a look at. What do you think about what the Celtics have done this offseason in their competition in the East?
I think something that I've acknowledged over the last year or so, while Danny Ainge is a terrific GM, he had a chance to cash his chips in the middle of the table and he overplayed his hand. Of course, Jason Tatum is an all-NBA player that you want to give a max deal to, and Jaylen Brown's an all-NBA player, also a lockdown defender. But when you start losing Al Horford, Kyrie Irving, and Gordon Hayward for no assets in return, now you start to look back at the journey and like, wait a minute, they were in play for Anthony Davis and what happened? They were in play for Kawhi Leonard and what happened? And so now who's going to be their starting bigs? When you look at their team, Tristan Thompson, is he going to be the guy that's closing games for the Celtics this year? That is not what you anticipate as they were accumulating assets over the last handful of years, and you were building out the Boston Celtics starting team and their bench.
We always talk about Danny Ainge and all the assets and the trade assets and the draft picks they had. Well, they never really used those trade assets in trades, and the draft picks they did draft didn't really pan out the past few years when you get past that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum class. Jalen, joining us right now on the show, right after this break, is Hit Boy, one of the hottest producers in the game. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss that.
Jalen and Jacoby is presented by Grey Goose. Grey Goose.
Coming to you live from Pier 17, the South Street, Seaport District of Manhattan, and brought to you by Chase. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, we have the honor to be joined right now on the show by the hottest producer in the culture. Hit Boy joins us on the program. Thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate you.
Yes, indeed.
Appreciate y'all having me, for sure.
Now, we're going to talk about some of the hits that you've made this year and over the years, but we want to start with this. We know you're a Laker fan. How did it feel to watch your team take home the title this season from the bubble?
Oh, amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, I've been a Laker fan my whole life, so just to see it come back around full circle, I always feel great when we get a chip.
Hit Boy, congratulations on all your success. It seems like every dope album to step to seems like you produced it. So what has it been like for you to watch your Lakers and your Dodgers win the championship within weeks of one another?
Hey, it's funny, man. I said this on my IG. I'm like, I feel like Kobe and Nip shining down on LA right now because we tearing it up. Like, I got producer of the year with BET. Lakers won, Dodgers won. We on top. California.
Well, the Big Sean album produced by Hit Boy, the Nas album produced by Hit Boy, our guy Benny the Butcher produced by Hit Boy, and tons of other tracks as well. It's been a great year for you, not just your teams winning championships, but you're winning championships too. What does it feel like looking back on this crazy 2020 and looking at the body of work that you put in during the quarantine?
It's been beautiful, man. Like, it's kind of something I've been dreaming of my whole life. Like, you know, a lot of my career I was doing 1 or 2 tracks and I still was creating a buzz for myself, but this year I feel like I just elevated and I just focused up on a different level. I got that Mamba mentality, you know what I'm saying?
Rest in peace to the legend Kobe Bean Bryant. And your Lakers didn't rest on their laurels. They have a better team right now than the team that just won the championship. What do you think about the off-season's moves so far?
I mean, I love it. I feel like they brought in some energy they needed. You know what I'm saying? They got the pieces that's going to complement what's already going on. So it's game time. I can't wait for the season to start.
And neither can we. And we've got to ask you a question as a Laker fan, right? Because there's been so many legends that have worn the purple and gold, from Kareem to Magic to Kobe to Shaq to now LeBron. In your opinion, who's the greatest Laker of all time?
Man, I got to go with KB. That's my era, man. That was my guy. Like, when I was a kid, looking up to the, NBA players, like, that was my guy. So I got to go with KB, man. Rest in peace.
So you've not only become the elite producer, but the most versatile in a lot of ways. Jacoby mentioned some of the artists, rap music-wise, that you produce, but also artists like Beyonce. What is it like as a producer to be able to create quality music for vastly different artists and different sounds?
That's always been my thing. Like, I always wanted to be versatile. I never wanted to be put in a box. And a lot of my career, I thought, like, man, maybe I should just have one signature sound. Maybe I could get, my name noticed more or whatever. But I feel like longevity comes from just being all around. You know what I'm saying? Like, wherever somebody needs me, whether it's pop, R&B, rap, I'm going to just try to deliver on the highest quality level.
Well, one of the greatest producers to ever do it is Dr. Dre, and we know that you're a Southern California kid. So what does it feel like when you see Dr. Dre enjoy your music?
Unreal, man. Like, for him to hop on King's Disease on one of my joints and, shout me out and rap on it, like, that was unreal. Just thinking back to, Chronic 2000, and before I could even imagine making a beat, Dr. Dre hopping on my stuff it's unreal, man.
I agree, because Dr. Dre is that dude, and I'm a whack DJ in my spare time. And when I first heard the World Class Wrecking Crew and Dr. Dre in Surgery, Dr. Dre, Dre, that was my song.
Yeah.
And so what was your inspiration into wanting to be a producer?
Just hearing the sounds, I just had a imagination, I guess you could say, as a kid. Like, I just a big imagination. And when I would hear them NWA beats, like, it was just like a movie. It wasn't just music. Like, I could feel, like, different scenes within the elements of the song. So that's just something I got real interested in. And I'm so glad I dove into things sonically. And I'm still here today. So it's a blessing.
So we're obsessed with the versus battles, right? We're coming right off. We just had Gucci and Jeezy and you and Boy Wonder. What's a versus battle that you want to see happen that hasn't happened yet?
Man, Kanye and Pharrell would be crazy. Mike Will and Mushroom would be crazy. It's some cold ones for sure. I definitely think they're my top two.
So, Hit Boy, Thanksgiving is in a couple of days, and Jacoby and I argue all of the time about whether turkey is overrated. Do you like turkey for Thanksgiving, or is it overrated?
It is a little overrated. It's kind of dry, you know what I'm saying? I don't mean to hate on nobody that enjoy turkey, but it's a little dry. But, I'll rock with it if my people make it, for sure.
You've got a new single, Salute, with Big Sean and Fabio. I just wanted to ask you, it was used during the draft coverage. What was it like watching your music sort of during this moment when it's changing so many lives?
Oh, that was fly, man. Like, and then, just the sound of it, I feel like it commanded that type of moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, for people to really be celebrated and be saluted. Like, this is, the biggest moment, I guess, in these basketball players' lives. So for them to be saluted on this level is amazing. And then to use my song, unbelievable.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the love. I just want to put one thing on your radar that is not going to be a surprise. Be ready for them 5 things. Be ready for that 6 things remix, because your Lakers getting some more championships before LeBron retires.
For sure. We got to. You already know.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll be back with more. You're watching Jalen and Jacoby.
Appreciate y'all.
Is presented by Grey Goose.
He is Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We make sure we take the time and energy to give the people what they want.
Montrezl Harrell said the Clippers didn't even want him. John Wall reportedly wants out of the nation's capital, and we have Hit Boy joining us later, but we start with last night's Monday Night Football game. It was the Rams beating Tom Brady with some interceptions that we will discuss, and the Bucs last night. What do you think about Jared Goff?
I think he looked every bit of what you want Tom Brady to actually look like, David Jacoby. How about that? He was picking apart the Tampa Bay Bucks. And the thing about it is Cup and Woods constantly seemed to be open. And he found ways to make sure he delivered the football. And they constantly moved the ball up and down the field against that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. That is something that we didn't necessarily anticipate early in the year when we were talking about how the Bucs were flying off the ball, they were making plays, they were putting pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. That didn't happen last night. And I know it's the holiday season, and you're going to see a lot of people like you choosing to go to Jarrett, thinking they're going to get a discount. But I just want to tell you, every person that sells insurance, sells cars, and sells jewelry makes you think they're getting a discount. You're not.
Okay, I have no idea how that's related, but we'll get back to the game. It wasn't just Jared Goff performing well, but Tom Brady didn't look great. He kind of looked like the Tom Brady from primetime when they played the Saints. He was under pressure. He was throwing the ball inaccurately. He obviously had some interceptions that didn't look great. There were some drops in his defense. But, Jalen, what do you think about this Tom Brady that we saw last night?
Here's what I think, Jacoby. Once you get up there in age, you're not able to deliver the football down the field the way you used to. And Bruce Arians' system requires the quarterback to throw the ball a lot deeper than he was required to do when he was in New England.
Good
And
point.
also, they're one of the worst teams on third and long situations. Here's what I will ask Bruce Arians and Brian Leftwich. Can y'all turn around and hand the football off? You know, y'all still got Ronald Jones II. Still have him, right? They still got Leonard Fournette. That's what it's going to have to take, more balance. I know when you see the weapons, you like, we got to get it to Evans. We got to get it to Godwin. We got to get it to Antonio Brown. And there are times when they were open and he couldn't get them the ball, Jacoby. He couldn't get them the ball. So I want to make sure that I'm giving credit to the Rams and their D, but I can't ignore the fact that when Tom Brady's throwing the ball down the field over 20 yards, he's been the worst person as a starting quarterback in the NFL to do so.
Interesting. Well, Jalen, do you remember the Sunday night game when Patrick Mahomes got the ball with under 2 minutes left and just took his team down the field? It felt inevitable. You knew it was going to happen. I had nothing but the confidence that he was going to do that. I used to feel that way about Tom Brady, but Tom Brady had the ball down 3 with under 2 minutes left.
No.
And I didn't have the same kind of confidence. And you didn't either. I know you were up watching that game. I was like, I wonder how this one's going to end, because you just don't know. It doesn't feel inevitable the way it used to with Tom Brady. Bruce Arians, once again, was critical of his Hall of Fame quarterback, saying, when guys are open, we got to hit them. We can't misread coverage. Jalen, did he just say Tom Brady can't read coverage? Did he just do that again?
Well, here's what happens, Jacoby. All of the success that he had in his GOAT career, none of it was in Tampa Bay. So when you get a chance to play with a new cast of characters, it becomes, what have you done for me lately? And trust me, we talked about that on this program. You see the kind of numbers that Keenan Allen is putting up with Justin Herbert as his quarterback? Well, that's what Godwin and Evans thought they were going to be doing. You know that, right? You know that that's what they thought. And plus, they felt that they were going to be playing on a contending team. Not throwing a lollipop to end the game to the defense, an uncontested interception. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a good football team, except when they're going against a contending football team. That's when they've struggled.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that story. There is another player playing with a new cast of characters, as you put it, and that is Montrezl Harrell, who has officially signed with the Lakers. When asked about whether or not the Clippers wanted